Jimmy Kimmel has been making audiences laugh for over 2 decades. He's roasted presidents, mocked celebrities, and turned awkward moments into comedy gold. He's interviewed everyone from A-list movie stars to controversial politicians, handling them all with the same blend of humor, warmth, and razor-sharp wit that made him a late-night institution. But on a Thursday night that would become legendary in talk show history, Jimmy Kimmel faced something unprecedented. A guest so convinced of her own importance that she couldn't recognize a joke, couldn't accept a question, and couldn't understand why the audience wasn't worshiping at her feet. Meghan Markle walked onto that Hollywood stage expecting adoration. She walked off 25 minutes later, publicly humiliated, verbally outmaneuvered at every turn. The audience cheering not for her, but for the man who refused to let arrogance masquerade as authenticity. The cameras caught everything. Before we dive into this incredible story, make sure you hit subscribe and smash that like button. Now, let's get into what really happened on that Hollywood stage. The Jimmy Kimmel live studio buzzed with its usual electric energy as the audience settled into their seats. The familiar blue backdrop, the iconic desk, the band warming up, everything was set for another night of entertainment. Jimmy emerged from backstage to thunderous applause, waving to the crowd with his signature self-deprecating grin. Thank you. Thank you. Welcome to the show. We have a very special guest tonight, someone who's been in more headlines than most world leaders. She's a duchess, a podcaster, a philanthropist, and according to some corners of the internet, either a saint or a supervillain. Please welcome Meghan Markle. The applause was enthusiastic as Meghan emerged from backstage. She waved gracefully before settling into the guest chair with the posture of someone who expected the furniture to be grateful. Meghan, thank you for being here. This is exciting. Thank you for having me, Jimmy. But there was something in her tone, a subtle flatness that suggested she was already performing rather than connecting. Jimmy rubbed his hands together. So, I have to ask, how does it feel to be in Hollywood? You used to work here, then you became a princess, and now you're back. It's like the world's most expensive gap year. The audience laughed. Meghan's smile tightened almost imperceptibly. I was never a princess, actually. That's a common misconception. I'm a duchess. Jimmy nodded. Right. Right. Duchess. My apologies. I always get confused. Is a duchess higher or lower than a princess? I need a chart. It's different, Meghan said coolly. Not higher or lower, just different. Okay, so it's like asking if a producer is higher than a director. The answer is, depends on who's writing the check. The audience laughed again. Meghan didn't. I'm not sure that comparison works, Jimmy. No. Well, I'm not sure I understand British aristocracy, so we're even. He grinned. So, tell us, what's life like now? You're in Montecito, right? Beautiful area. Meghan tilted her head, her expression shifting to something almost condescending. It's home. We've built something meaningful there. A life away from the chaos. Away from the chaos, but still doing Netflix specials and podcasts and interviews. That's a very public kind of privacy. The observation landed with precision. Meghan's eyes flickered. There's a difference between choosing to share and being forced to share. Jimmy nodded thoughtfully. That's true, but you're not being forced to be here tonight, right? No one's making you do this interview. Of course not. So, this is chosen sharing. Yes? Great. Then let's share. Tell us something you haven't told anyone else. Give us an exclusive. Meghan paused, seemingly caught off guard. I'm not sure what you mean. An exclusive, something new, something the other shows don't get. That's kind of how this works. You come on, you promote something. You give us something special so people remember the interview. I'm not here to give exclusives, Jimmy. I'm here to have a conversation. A conversation usually involves information exchange. You tell me something, I respond. We go back and forth. So far, you've told me where you live and that you're not a princess. I could have gotten that from Wikipedia. The audience laughed. Meghan's smile had become fixed, almost frozen. I think meaningful conversation is about more than trading information. Sure, But we're not having meaningful conversation either. We're having careful conversation. There's a difference. Meghan shifted in her seat, visibly recalibrating. What would you like to know? How are you really? Not the PR answer, the real answer. I'm wonderful, thriving actually. Thriving. Jimmy tilted his head. Thriving? That word comes up a lot with you and Harry. It's like your brand. We're thriving. But you say it the way people say I'm fine when they're clearly not fine. I am fine. I'm better than fine. But here's the thing. Happy people usually don't need to announce it. They just are happy. The constant insistence is kind of the tell. Meghan's eyes narrowed. The tell of what? That maybe things aren't as thriving as advertised when a restaurant puts world famous on the sign. If you have to say it, it probably isn't. The audience laughed. Meghan did not. I don't appreciate the implication. There's no implication. I'm just making an observation. You've told me you're thriving 3 times in 2 minutes. That's a lot of thriving because people keep questioning whether I'm happy. So, I answer. And your answer is always the same word, thriving. It's very consistent, almost like a talking point. Meghan's voice took on an edge. It's not a talking point, it's the truth. Great. You're thriving. I believe you. Thousands wouldn't. But I believe you. The audience chuckled at the reference. Meghan's face wrined slightly. What's that supposed to mean? It's just an old expression. Thousands wouldn't. It means I'm choosing to take you at your word even though skepticism would be understandable. Why would skepticism be understandable? Because you've spent 5 years telling everyone how unhappy you were, and now suddenly you're thriving. That's a big shift. People have questions. People can have whatever questions they want. That doesn't mean I owe them answers. Jimmy nodded. True, but you're on my show, and my show is basically just questions. That's the whole format. Meghan took a visible breath. Let's talk about something else. Sure. How's Harry? The shift in Meghan's demeanor was immediate, a wall going up so fast it was almost audible. I'd prefer not to discuss my husband. Jimmy's eyebrows rose. Really? But he's half your brand. You're the Sussex package deal. Like Batman and Robin, but with better outfits. We're individuals with our own identities. Of course, but you came to fame as a couple. You left the royal family as a couple. You did Oprah as a couple. The Netflix thing was about your coupleness. Harry is kind of central to your whole narrative. That doesn't mean I have to discuss him in every interview. This is the first time I've asked. We've been talking for like 4 minutes and already you're asking about Harry because he's your husband and this is a talk show. How's your spouse is pretty standard fare. I asked Jennifer Aniston about her dogs. I asked Matt Damon about his kids. I'm asking you about your husband. It's not invasive. It's small talk. Meghan's jaw tightened. Small talk isn't always appropriate. When is asking about someone's husband not appropriate? Unless Jimmy paused dramatically. Wait, is everything okay? Did something happen? Everything is fine. Then why can't you talk about him? I can talk about him. I'm choosing not to. Okay, but that choice is weird, Meghan. It's like if I asked, how's the weather in Montecito? And you said, I'd prefer not to discuss atmospheric conditions. It raises more questions than it answers. The audience laughed openly now. They could feel the dynamic shifting, could sense Jimmy gaining ground while Meghan retreated into defensiveness. Meghan's voice sharpened. You're being deliberately obtuse. I'm being deliberately curious. There's a difference. Obtuse would be not noticing that you're avoiding a simple question. Curious is wondering why. There's no why. I just don't want to discuss him tonight. But you'll discuss him in books, documentaries, and other interviews. Just not this one. That's correct. So, I'm special. That's not what I said. You've discussed Harry everywhere else, but not here. That makes me special. I'm flattered or insulted. I honestly can't tell. Meghan stood slightly, then sat back down, a false start that betrayed her agitation. Can we please talk about my work? Absolutely. What work? Tell me about it. We're doing important things through the foundation. Meaningful, substantive work that's changing lives. That sounds great. What specifically? Meghan's expression flickered with irritation. Why does everyone always want specifics? Because specifics are how we distinguish real work from just talking about work. Anyone can say they're changing lives. Specifics are the proof. The proof is in the impact. What impact? Give me an example. One story. One person whose life you've changed. Meghan hesitated. It doesn't work that way. We're addressing systemic issues, not individual cases. Systemic issues are made up of individual cases. That's literally what systemic means, a system affecting individuals. So, who's been affected? I'm not going to reduce our work to sound bites. I'm not asking for sound bites. I'm asking for evidence. You say you're doing meaningful work? I believe you. Now, help me understand what that looks like. Meghan's voice rose slightly. It looks like commitment. It looks like showing up every day for causes that matter. Which causes? Women's empowerment, children's welfare, mental health. Great. Those are categories. What are you actually doing within those categories? We're creating platforms for voices that don't get heard. Whose voices? Women from marginalized communities. Which women? What communities? Meghan, I'm trying to give you a chance to explain your work and you keep answering in corporate mission statement language. It's like asking someone what they do for a living, and they say, I leverage synergies to optimize outcomes. That's not an answer. That's word salad. The audience laughed. Meghan's face flushed with unmistakable anger. I don't appreciate being mocked. I'm not mocking you. I'm pointing out that you've been talking for 5 minutes and haven't actually said anything. That's not mockery. That's observation. Your observations feel very hostile. Hostile? I asked about your husband. You refused. I asked about your happiness. You gave me a talking point. I asked about your work. You gave me buzzwords. At some point, you have to give me something real, Meghan. Otherwise, what are we doing here? Meghan crossed her arms, her posture becoming defensive. We're having a conversation that you keep derailing. I keep derailing. I've asked 3 questions. How are you? How's Harry? What's your work? Those are literally the most basic interview questions. You've treated each one like it's a trap because they are traps. You're trying to get me to say something you can use for what? For headlines? For clicks? For whatever drives your ratings. Jimmy sat back, genuinely seeming to consider this. Okay, let's follow that logic. If I wanted headlines, I'd ask you controversial stuff. Is Kate really a villain? Did the palace try to destroy you? What's William really like? Those would be headline questions. Instead, I asked how you're doing and what you're working on. If those feel like traps, the problem might not be the questions. The problem is the framing. What framing? I literally said, tell me about your work. That's the most neutral frame possible. There's no angle. There's no gotcha. There's just curiosity. Your curiosity feels very pointed because I actually want answers. That's what curiosity is. And you're not giving me any. You're giving me deflection dressed up as caution. Meghan's voice dropped to something cold. Maybe I'm cautious because I've been burned before. By who? Not by me. I've never interviewed you. I've never written about you. I've made a few jokes on the show, but I make jokes about everyone. It's my job. You can't hold me responsible for things other people did. You're part of the same media ecosystem. So is everyone with a camera or a keyboard. Should no one ever ask you questions because someone else was unfair once? Once, constantly. Okay, but I'm not constantly. I'm right now. And right now, I've been nothing but friendly. I've made a few jokes, which is what I do. And I've asked basic questions. If that's too hostile for you, I'm not sure what you were expecting from a late-night comedy show. The audience murmured with appreciation. Jimmy had touched something real. The absurdity of coming on a comedy show and expecting reverence. Meghan took a breath, visibly trying to regain composure. Let's start over. Happy to. Fresh slate. What would you like to talk about? I'd like to talk about women's empowerment and the work I'm doing to uplift female voices. Great. Tell me about it. Specifics this time. Meghan opened her mouth, then closed it. For a moment, she seemed genuinely lost. Jimmy waited. The silence stretched. I created programs that address systemic barriers, Meghan. Jimmy's voice was gentle but firm. You keep saying systemic barriers and programs without naming a single actual thing. It's like saying, I cook food when someone asks what you made for dinner. It's technically answering without actually answering. These things are complicated. So, explain the complication. I'm literally giving you unlimited time to tell me about your life's work, and you can't describe it without buzzwords. That's concerning. Meghan's eyes flashed with anger. What's concerning is your attitude. My attitude is curious and increasingly confused. Those aren't concerning emotions. They're rational responses to vague answers. My answers aren't vague. Name one program. We have several. Name one. Meghan went silent. Jimmy didn't gloat. He just waited, letting the silence speak for itself. Finally, Meghan spoke, her voice tight with controlled fury. You're deliberately trying to humiliate me. I'm asking you to describe your work. If that's humiliating, maybe the work isn't as substantial as you've claimed. How dare you? I dare because it's my job. It's literally what I'm here for. I ask questions. Guests answer them. That's the social contract of talk shows. You agreed to this appearance. You came here voluntarily, and now you're mad that I'm doing exactly what talk show hosts do. Meghan grabbed her purse from beside her chair. I think we're done. We're only 12 minutes in. We have another segment planned. I don't care. This has been hostile from the start. Jimmy shook his head slowly. Meghan, I've been doing this for 20 years. I've interviewed presidents who were friendlier than you've been tonight. I've asked you softball questions that you've treated like grenades. If this feels hostile, I don't know what friendly would look like. Friendly would be respectful. I've been respectful. Humor isn't disrespect. Questions aren't attacks. The fact that you can't tell the difference is exactly the problem. Meghan stood up, her chair scraping against the stage floor. I'm leaving. That's your right. But before you go, I want to say something. She paused, perhaps curious despite herself. Jimmy continued, his voice dropping the comedy persona for something more genuine. I think you came in here expecting worship. And when you didn't get it, when you got normal questions instead of softball praise, you interpreted it as hostility. That's not healthy, Meghan. That's not how the world works. People are going to ask you things. People are going to challenge you. And if you can't handle challenge without calling it attack, you're going to have a very hard time. I can handle challenges. You've handled nothing tonight. You've deflected. You've refused. You've gotten angry. That's not handling. That's avoiding. I'm not avoiding anything. You're literally walking away from an interview because I asked you to describe your charitable work. How is that not avoiding? Meghan's face contorted with rage. Because it's not a real question. It's an ambush. Tell me about your work as an ambush. Meghan, that's the easiest question in the interview world. Literally, every guest gets asked that. And they answer with specifics because they actually have work to describe. The implication landed like a bomb. Meghan stared at him, her mouth opening and closing. I have work. Then describe it. One more chance. Forget everything else. Just tell me one specific thing you've done through your foundation that you're proud of. Silence. Meghan stood frozen under the studio lights, the audience watching, the cameras rolling, Jimmy waiting with an expression of genuine invitation rather than mockery. She couldn't answer. That's what I thought, Jimmy said quietly. Meghan grabbed her microphone and threw it onto the chair rather than removing it properly. The sound technicians winced as feedback squealed through the monitors. You're pathetic, she hissed. This whole show is pathetic. And yet you agreed to be on it. That says something about where you are in your career. The observation struck home. Meghan's face went pale, then red. You'll regret this. I doubt it, but I think you might. Goodbye, Meghan. She turned and stormed toward the exit. At the edge of the stage, she spun back. This is exactly what the British press did. Twist everything. Make me the villain. You're all the same. Jimmy didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. I asked you how you were doing. I asked about your husband. I asked about your work. Those are the three nicest questions in journalism. You treated them like war crimes. I'm not the one who made you a villain tonight, Meghan. You did that all by yourself. The audience burst into applause. Not for Meghan, but for Jimmy. for saying what everyone was thinking, for holding ground when she expected surrender. Meghan stood frozen for a moment, the applause washing over her like a verdict. Then she turned and disappeared backstage, the sound of her heels echoing until a door slammed in the distance. Jimmy sat in silence for a moment, then turned to face the camera with a weary smile. Well, that was unexpected. When we come back, we'll have music from someone who actually wants to be here. Don't go anywhere. The band played as they cut to commercial. During the break, Jimmy rubbed his temples. His producer rushed over. That was insane. Are you okay? I'm fine. I didn't want that. I wanted to do a normal interview. She made it impossible. You handled it perfectly. Did I? I feel like I should have let some stuff go, but she was so entitled. Yeah, exactly. Entitled. Like she expected me to just nod along with whatever she said. You're Jimmy Kimmel. You don't nod along with anyone. I know, but still. I didn't want to send anyone home angry. She sent herself home angry. You just asked questions. Jimmy nodded slowly. Yeah, I guess that's the problem. Just asking questions was too much for her. The footage went viral within hours. Every clip, every exchange, every devastating response Jimmy delivered to Meghan's deflections. The interview lasted 18 minutes. Its impact would last far longer. And somewhere in Montito, a duchess was learning what many before her had discovered. That Jimmy Kimmel's jokes are funny, but his questions are the real killer. Some thrones are inherited, others are built. Only one of those people was sitting on a throne they'd earned. What do you think? Was Jimmy too harsh, or did Meghan deserve every response? Who would you like to see Jimmy interview next? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like this video to help it reach more people. Subscribe to our channel for more explosive celebrity moments.